Hey mamas, I'm Brooke Miller, registered dietitian, certified lactation counselor, and a mama who has helped hundreds of moms feel like themselves again after baby, boost their energy, mood, metabolism, and even milk supply. Inside of the Postpartum Shift podcast, you'll learn how to take care of your health so that you can show up best for the ones you care about most. Each week, we'll tackle topics like nutrition, exercise, breastfeeding, mental health, and so much more. Plus, you'll get access to guest experts who will share ways to make your pregnancy and postpartum experience easier. Whether you're approaching the postpartum period or you're right in the thick of it, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. Hey, welcome back to the Postpartum Shift podcast. And today we're going to be talking all things skin and skin things that pop up when we are pregnant or postpartum. So I brought in special guest, Jennifer Fugo. Can you just share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I am a clinical nutritionist, and because I ended up with a type of eczema on my hands called dyshidrotic eczema, I came to realize that there is so much that we don't know and so many things that we do wrong to help people who have chronic skin issues. So that is whom I predominantly work with. Obviously, as many of your listeners probably know, a lot of times we don't just have one issue. There's usually other things happening. So we look at each client from a really holistic perspective. And I love to blend whatever options that are available out there, whether it's conventional, whether it's alternative, nutrition, etc. I like to blend things together because I realize that one way does not fit every single person. And depending on the severity of someone's skin issues, because it can be quite severe, sometimes we might need some medication, and I don't have any judgment about that. So clients really appreciate that it's in a judgment-free zone where they get to explore and deal with root cause issues with the hope of not needing medication anymore. So that's what I do.
Love it so much. And can you talk a little bit about some just common skin issues that you see come up when you work with moms who are pregnant?
Yes. So typically they have either eczema or psoriasis, or like the two most common ones. Sometimes there's hives or chronic urticaria, dermatographia, but I feel like those, sometimes perioral dermatitis. I feel like a lot of times what happens is someone will have rash issues pre-pregnancy. And then one of two things will happen. Either your hormones will fluctuate such that estrogen will drop and the rashes will go away or get drastically better, where you're like, hallelujah, this is the best thing ever. Oh my gosh, maybe I did something and it finally worked. Or they'll get worse. And it's pretty much the trend, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's rosacea issues. Not all. It just sort of seems to be that there's like these rashy issues that most people seem to be most troubled with. And the other thing then is we get to the other side of pregnancy, have the baby. And it's really important to know that if your skin cleared up or got drastically better during pregnancy, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there is this unfortunate situation that typically between like the 3rd to the 6th month postpartum, once your hormones kind of settle wherever they're going to settle, the rashes may come back. So you should be aware of this. It's the drop in estrogen specifically a lot of times that will cause rashes to disappear. It can kind of point towards a potential like autoimmune possible trigger. The reason that we have high progesterone during pregnancy is it helps us hold the pregnancy, and estrogen drops to help decrease the risk that your body isn't going to reject the baby. There's some like really amazing things that happen, but this is like one of the challenges with skin issues. So sometimes people have new onset of rashes during pregnancy. That's not always the case, at least what we see in our clinic. But yeah, those are kind of the situations that tend to arise.
And can you talk a little bit about acne during pregnancy? Because I feel like with some of my pregnancies, acne would come up during certain trimesters. And then other pregnancies, I had like the most beautiful glowing skin ever. And so can you just touch on like acne with pregnancy?
I wish I could, but I actually can't. I don't really work with acne, believe it or not. It's usually a side thing. Most of our clients who've dealt with issues with their skin, it's typically not acne. My guess would be that there's the shift in hormones, and it could also potentially be, I mean, certainly the GI tract can play a role, what's in the gut, your immune system's ability to tolerate what's living. And when I say in the gut, I mean specifically your gut microbiome. That will impact things. But why you would end up with acne during pregnancy and then other times not, that is not something that I would have the answer to. I wish I did.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Yeah. And then how about common skin issues that you see mostly during postpartum that you don't necessarily see as much during pregnancy?
I would say during postpartum, so one of the cool things, it's not cool for the baby, but if your baby is struggling with cradle cap, that's a really important sign, especially if you're having, I mean, any type of symptoms that you're having, like whether it's gut challenges or anything. But if you have skin issues and your baby is dealing with cradle cap, that's usually a pretty big red flag that there is some sort of like fungal overgrowth happening within the GI tract. So it's not that you passed it to that. Like, it just is what it is. We're a series of microbiomes that we pass back and forth to one another, unfortunately. But it helps you as a clue to know where you potentially need to look down the road. I think one thing to know is if you do want to address rashy issues in yourself and you are breastfeeding, you can't just dive into the detoxes and the cleanses and the things that you see online. Some herbs, a lot of times they're herb based. Some can cause your breast milk to dry up. They can also sometimes be passed through the breast milk to the child, and they might be really inappropriate for the child to get exposed to. So you want to be really careful if you're going about this from an integrative route. Even if you're taking certain medications, certain meds can't be taken during breastfeeding. So we really want to be careful if there are these, like I was mentioning, the underlying gut microbiome issues. We want to be mindful about supporting the liver. So liver detox can be supported during any phase of life because we have to detoxify everything all the time. But when we're dealing with skin issues, liver detoxification comes to the forefront, specifically phase 2 liver detox. And fortunately, I know you love to replete. Phase 2 detox is all about repleting nutrients because that's what it needs to run optimally. And then supporting the gut microbiome, optimizing gut digestion. So we want to make sure that we're digesting and then obviously absorbing. We are having healthy bowel movements, healthy poops. I usually say 1 to 3 times a day. And those are some good places to start. But yeah, I mean, you can have all sorts of things happen. Some of it has to do with the fluctuations in hormones. Sometimes it's that the pregnancy and giving birth is such a stressor that sometimes it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, and your body could tolerate those underlying issues before. And now they're like, listen, we got a lot of additional stressors. We're nutrient depleted and we just can't manage this inflammation. I like to think of skin issues as a sign of underlying inflammation. I think regardless of what diagnosis you have, they're all driven typically by internal inflammation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned cradle cap. Is there anything specifically that moms can do to help cradle cap? Like anything that they can do topically or anything that they can help with, you know, to help resolve it with their baby?
So funny enough, I interviewed a dermatologist because we were talking all about this. And so there's a formula, it's on Amazon. It's a product called Yobe. It's, I think Yobee. It's all natural. And they created it. So it was made by a dermatologist, Dr. Peter Leo, and an allergist, Dr. Rushi Gupta, and they're out of the Chicago area. And they created this formula for people who struggle with dandruff and microbiome issues of the scalp, because it's actually a microbiome issue. So there's an abundance of yeast and all sorts of things, and they have different products that you can use in this line that may be really helpful. And I believe some are for babies, some are for adults. But again, I would say that to me, if I was reviewing somebody's case, I'm like, okay, we definitely have some sort of fungal issue, at least in mom's gut microbiome. And that's kind of a good thing to know in terms of what all could be potentially causing her skin to go nuts if that's the case.
If you've been wanting to reach your healthiest weight and feel like yourself again postpartum without having to sacrifice your favorite foods or your milk supply, I've got a free workshop just for you. Inside of this free workshop, you'll discover how to boost energy, mood, metabolism, and even protect your milk supply. You'll learn common mistakes that moms make that actually cause exhaustion, mood swings, low milk supply, and weight loss resistance to become worse, things that moms don't even realize. And you'll learn the proven 3-step method to heal your hormones and metabolism after baby so you can go from surviving to thriving postpartum. Plus, as a free gift, you'll get my postpartum snack guide when you come hang out with us. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to save your seat today. Spots are limited. See you there.
Yeah. And what are some first steps, like some simple things that moms can start implementing with their nutrition just to help support them and get them into a good place? Like, obviously, some moms may also need medications or also may need, some further things, but where would be like a really simple first 1 or 2 steps to
I
start?
would say I love, and you talk about this, omega-3 rich foods, fatty fishes like salmon and cod. Try to get cold water, wild caught if you can. I would also just say, because there's a lot of worms and things, I'm like really grossed out by all those videos on social media of like all the stuff that's in fish. So try, I think at least cooking fish a little bit. For all those sushi lovers, I get it, but no.
I know. I got foodborne illness from sushi, but I still eat it. I still had it last week.
I'm hard no.
My husband's a hard no. He's like, have you seen monsters inside of me?
Yeah, no, it's
gross.
like the aliens coming out. Yeah, no.
Yes.
Grass-fed beef can be a great source of omega-3s, raw walnuts, plenty of different things. Obviously, hitting your protein targets are really important. You had talked about on my podcast about what you have expectations for moms to hit, and I'm pretty much close to the same. I really think regardless of baby, regardless of pregnancy, I'm even asking even men, I'm like, at least get 100 grams of protein a day because you're trying to heal your skin. You're trying to rebuild this really precious organ. So that's important. One really interesting thing that you can do is cook with a cast iron pan. And that can help infuse your food. Obviously, if you have hemochromatosis or some other issue, this is a different matter. But if you don't, and you definitely need to get some iron in, this is a great way to infuse any of the foods that you're cooking with some additional iron that you then eat. And research does show. Yes.
Which most moms
and research does show that this is
postpartum.
actually effective. And it doesn't matter whether it's like a plant-based meal, plant-based, like you're cooking up some beans and greens together, or you have meat in there. So I think that's a really great, easy option. Also, I love supplementing with glycine. It's an amino acid, which is really inexpensive. You can buy bags of it on Amazon. And that can help calm your nervous system. It can actually help you sleep. And it's really, really good for your phase 2 liver detox because we have a whole glycine cleavage system that helps support our body to do what it needs to do. And a lot of even moms and everybody of all ages finds it to be really helpful. So I would suggest maybe starting with like 3 grams a day. And if you find that that's not quite enough, or you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little bit better after like 3 or 4 weeks on it, you could even go up to like 5 grams a day. It's an amino acid. It's super simple. It actually tastes sweet. So you can use it as an alternative sweetener, technically, but there's no sugar in it. So it's just a really interesting amino acid. And a couple other tips, and I don't know if your moms that are listening would appreciate this, but I love some natural topicals. And so hypochlorous acid spray can be amazing. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's so great.
I've never used it though.
What your neutrophils make. So we have these white blood cells called neutrophils, and they make hypochlorous acid to help kill bacteria and such. And so it looks like water. It feels like water. It evaporates. It doesn't burn or anything. And so if you have, say, like maybe you have some issues with some staph overgrowth or things like that, you can try and spray this on the area. Sometimes the skin can be sprayed up to 5 times a day. And that can be helpful for some people if there is microbial imbalance on the skin. And it can be used for like cuts and scrapes, and it stops mosquito bites from itching if you spray it on there. Like, I don't know why, but it's like, it's amazing.
Wow, that's cool.
And then also some topical zinc. Obviously you have diaper cream. So if you have some of that and like an organic one, you can actually mix a little bit of that into your moisturizer. And that can help soothe skin topically. Topical zinc can be really helpful. Just higher concentrations of it, it's going to look really white. So just keep it at a very tiny amount.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to mention too, I take like the Vital Protein collagen peptides, and that has glycine in it. So if you guys are taking collagen, that's also really great for hair, skin, nails, all the things.
I
and
will
it just
tell you
helps
this much.
Get your protein goals.
I have figured out, and this is only from clinical experience, that you can't use, we don't see the therapeutic effect in clinic from taking it in collagen. You have to take it separately. We tried repeatedly. I don't know why. So I do the collagen. I'll say, yeah, take your collagen. That's awesome. And then take your glycine.
Yep.
Yes.
Take
and
it,
you could add it to your
Separate.
shake. You could add it to other things, whatever. Some people just do the capsules. When you get to higher, more therapeutic doses, then it's a little too much for capsules. But yeah. So yeah.
That's great to know. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. And then what are just some, like, if you could only pick like 3 to 5 foods for somebody struggling with skin issues, like what would be your top like 3 to 5 foods to start adding more consistently in their diet?
Beef, for sure. Electrolytes. I think we need electrolytes, not pounding them all day, because more is not always better. But I think at least once a day is a good place. And then I would say if you can do dairy, I think ghee is an amazing kind of superfood because it's removed the lactose. So the sugars and the proteins are generally removed. It's just the fat from butter. And you can get different animal ghee. It doesn't have to just be cow, because it has a lot of really great fat soluble nutrients like D, A, and E. It also has butyrate, which is really helpful for your gut cells and helping with the, a lot of people talk about leaky gut. So it can be helpful in soothing that. So I think ghee is a really great addition if you can tolerate it to cook with.
I love that. Is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with? Like any moms who are struggling and listening to this right now with their skin, or maybe had skin issues before even getting pregnant or at all during their motherhood journey? Any other things that you feel like they need to hear or need to know?
Skin issues are not just an outside problem. So if you're just doing creams, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're just doing the outside creams, if you're just doing moisturizers, if you've also now gone to the doctor and now you're doing like topical steroids and some other more serious medications, there is a huge internal component to this. Yes, we have a skin microbiome. Yes, we have things that happen on the outside of the skin barrier. But what also impacts it is the inflammatory drivers under the surface that are also causing this dysregulation. Why the rashes happen in certain spots, I can't always tell you that. That might just be the area that it impacts you. But if you address the underlying root causes that drive that inflammation, you actually can improve to a point where you may not actually need to use the medication anymore. You only need it sparingly. And you can get back to living your life without your skin really wrecking your entire quality of life in your day. So it is possible.
Love that so much. That's so helpful. And can you talk a little bit about how you work with women and how you can support them? So for any moms listening to this, if they are struggling with any type of skin issues, how they can work with you, or any free resources that you have?
Yeah, so we have the Healthy Skin Show, which is available on YouTube, Spotify, and all different podcast platforms. So you can check out my podcast anywhere if you want to get to know me and just like dive into this whole arena of like answers and options and all sorts of things. We also have a ton of content on my Instagram it's just at Jennifer Fugo. And then I have a free guide if listeners are interested. It's called the Skin Rash Root Cause Guide. It's just like really extensive checklist. It's like 16 pages, but it's not like tiny print, don't worry. But as you go through it, it will help you see where you're actually having problems, because there's 16 root causes, and we want to identify your top 3 to 5 that are actually causing the issue so you can focus on those. And so it's a really cool, quick guide. I know it's long, but it is life-changing for many of the people who've been in our community. And then I have a private clinic in addition to, if you're just looking for like DIY type programs, I have that, but I also have a private clinic where we consult with clients all over the world to help them address their chronic skin issues. And I have associates that work with me, and we see clients virtually. So there's a lot of options. They can head to healthyskinshow.com and find our clinic page.
Awesome. Thank you so much for what you do and how you help so many people. And I hope that you guys can connect with Jennifer if you are struggling.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to the Postpartum Shift podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with a mom friend and leave a written review. This helps the podcast reach and help even more moms. Come say hi over on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas.